2022, I predict that the regulators and lawmakers are going to really hone in and make sure that companies' use of AI promotes clients' and employees' data privacy and compliance with ESG practices. So, for example, at the end of the year, last year, New York City, I think it was one of the first regulators in the country, passed a law that says that employers in New York City that use AI tools in making hiring decisions must make sure that the tool passes a bias audit. And so what that means is that they have to be sure that the tool doesn't discriminate or are biased against individuals. That law goes into effect on January 1st, 2023. And so this is going to be a very interesting year where regulators are really focusing in on how the use of AI makes the world better, like it's supposed to, and not have the opposite effect. We have seen a lot of state and local governments implement data privacy laws in the recent years. One of the requirements of these laws is that you identify the personal data that should be protected and do in fact protect them. And so how do you identify everyone's personal data? If you take a large company, for example, you can't really have a human being sort through massive amounts of data to make sure that you're in compliance with all the laws. You're going to need the help of AI. And I think it's going to be a really big year for companies to figure out how best to use artificial intelligence to make sure that they're in compliance, not necessarily with artificial intelligence laws, but these other laws as well, such as the data privacy laws. So currently, we're living in a Web 2.0 world. And what that means is that there is a company or a social media group that has all of your data on their servers. That data is sitting with them. The idea behind Web 3.0 is that the data is going to go back to you. It is going to be scattered with the people that own the data. That is one interpretation of what Web 3.0 is going to look like, but I think most people can agree that Web 3.0 is going to be more decentralized than Web 2.0. And I think the world is kind of moving in that direction with Bitcoin and blockchain. You see those transaction data being stored not on one computer or with one bank, but lots of different servers spread out all over the world. And what this means is that there's going to be a real difficulty for regulators who have set up laws that affect the companies that hold the data, that store the data. For instance, banks have requirements to report suspicious activity. And if they are no longer the central repositories of all that transaction data, who's going to have the burden to make that report? This is going to be a very, very interesting area that's, I think, going to get further developed in 2022 as people start figuring out how much of the data can really be decentralized.